Well, it's real simple. I mean, Jerry misfired
Right.
on telling them they didn't have to keep an internship log anymore. And but we corrected it within just, a matter of minutes. We corrected it, put out emails, made sure everybody, but they don't want to hear that.
Right.
That wasn't part of what they wanted to hear.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, literally within minutes of him making that edict, I saw it coming over the email. It came to me, and I came running in and said, "No, Jerry, you can't do that. That's not a Gardner Webb thing. That's a state requirement for licensure." And so he said, "Oh, he didn't know that." And so, we went back, but that group has been particularly obstinate in. We were told we didn't have to. Well, you were told within a matter of minutes that you did have to. It didn't change anything. But they all have made it up among themselves.
Right.
But we were told we didn't have to. Well, then don't submit anything and see what happens to you. We won't recommend you for licensure. And so we're recommending it to 240 level. But that's the least we can recommend on.
Okay.
And they know that. They've been told that. I mean, it wasn't like they were several semesters in. I mean, it was in the first semester, and they were told before they even started keeping a log.
Well, wasn't that just one semester, Dale?
Yeah, and they were told, but they were told within less than a day after Jerry put that out. He put out he countermanded that and said, "Whoops, that was a mistake on my part."
So even 3 semesters would give you 320.
Exactly. Well, that's what I mean. Or 3 semesters would give you 240,
240, right?
320, and they were told. And so then some of them said, "Well, we shouldn't have to do it this semester." Well, my hair shouldn't have fallen out. How old are you? I mean, we're dealing with a bunch of people who didn't want to do the work. Now, please remember, and this is a blanket statement, and it's ugly. But this is the group who is just trying to get by. These are the people who decline to accelerate and get done early. These are the ones that we've had to drag along with us, kicking and streaming for 5 semesters that could have gotten done in 3 but chose not to.
Right. Now, the 2 that I'm dealing with, they are not. There's 3 of them. They're full masters from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I was with them and we didn't get that message until mid to late spring. Because I was over in England and you and I called you and I about freaked out. But that's the first that we got that message. So there's only 3 of them.
Yeah.
And they were in a totally different bubble somehow.
The ones that I've been having the problem with were the add-on people.
Right.
The rest of people just, they were going to be in it 5 semesters anyway, and it wasn't going to be a problem.
Right.
And they knew that from the very beginning. But then the ones that claimed that they had wanted to accelerate, but it's if we get 240 hours out of them, I'm fine. Anything less than that, no. And they know they were told. They just don't want to know.
All right, and I can go ahead and have them submit that for evaluation once.
Anytime they get 240 hours, get them rolling.
Good deal.
And so I'm recording. Let me go to Task Stream and look at. Don't have a lot left that hadn't been evaluated. I'm slowing down on picking them up. I think the notifications are now working. Danny says that he's getting his now. He wasn't getting his for a while. Several of you weren't. So we're up to date to 325. Well, that one will actually be. That one's been in a day and a half because it came at 1:42 a.m. Looks like Saturday night, and that one came in at 1:58 yesterday afternoon. So now in the morning, I'll knock these out if they're still here in the morning because we have to keep them rolling.
Okay.
But please remember that there's 2 places for internship log. They can go into their DRF portfolio and upload it, but they can request comments if they're not in their last semester. They can request comments in their competency folio.
Right.
Please remember that. For some reason, I'm getting some of the 601s are submitting their first one with just a few hours on it. I have one that came in with 36 hours that was submitted for evaluation. And I was like, something's crazy here. That was about half a semester, so I don't know. I mean, that would have been fine requesting comments. But please remember, if they submit it in their DRF portfolio, I have to catch it and send it back.
Okay.
If they want to request comments, let me go in. If they want to request comments on it, they're not in their last semester. They simply go to folios and web pages, access their competency folio for spring 18, go down to the bottom, and there will be the internship log, and they can upload as many hours, and it tells them right there, and then they can request comments. I would start suggesting that they start doing that around now, even if it's not 80 hours, to make sure they aren't just all doing bus duty.
Right.
And I've had the most unusual requests this semester, and that's why I wanted to get to this today. I've had some of the most unusual requests for things like, I did a summer training institute as a teacher back in the summer. Can I count that as my internship hours? No, you can't count that as your internship hours. It was in the summer, number one, and it was a teacher institute, number two. But I've had the most odd requests about things to count for internship hours I've ever seen in my life. I do not know why I'm getting such odd requests. So if you get us, I don't want to just make a blanket statement, we need to see everybody's, but if you get the feeling that somebody, especially if they're not in a traditional public school, if you get the feeling that maybe they're not actually doing an internship and they're just going to collect some odd hours like online training programs and safety modules and things like that, you might want to have them put them in here in their competency folio and take a look at them. I mean, I know myself personally, in the last 2 months, I have done 5 training modules, like active shooter and safety and things like that. I know that a lot of schools and districts are doing a lot of that stuff because of all the shootings we've had lately. That's all well and good, but that's not internship, folks. And I'm getting a lot of requests, for things like that.
Well, Dale, what I'm telling the new interns I have, I'm telling them if it can relate directly to your internship work.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes, it's got to relate back to their internship work. It doesn't have to just be on that list, but it can't be active shooter training or hazardous chemical training, or some kind of a teacher training back in the summer, or they went to some institute in the fall that had nothing to do with leadership or internship. It's just some of the oddest stuff. And if it was just 1 or 2, I would ignore it. But it's become pretty prevalent that for some reason these folks are struggling to get their hours, and they're just asking me some of the most ridiculous things. And I don't know why they're struggling so hard to get their hours, unless they just really aren't doing an internship.
Okay.
And so if you suspect that, we could kind of head it off. We've got kind of a safety valve here that we can have them upload it for review any number of times here in their competency folio to get an idea of what they're doing. And so when you look at those things, make sure you look at them not just for the number of hours, but what they were doing. I mean, again, I've used George Fishburne as the example for a long time down at Williams Township down below Whiteville. I mean, George had 385 hours of bus duty out of his 400. But the irony was the principal loved George. I talked to him and said just loved him. He did bus duty morning and night, a year and a half to do as an intern, but then didn't want to recommend him for his licensure because he hadn't done anything but bus duty. And he was the one that had assigned him bus duty. So sometimes it's also for the protection of our students. We'll have a knucklehead like that who does something like that and then wants to penalize the intern for it later on. That happens more than I would like to admit. And that's one of the reasons why that that competency certification of competency by the principal was taken out. they were too abusive on that as a group. Not all of them, but as a group, we found too many abuses on that deal. And so we had to, I would welcome the good principals' input, but the bad ones not so much. So that's what I wanted to cover in TaskStream. Does anybody have anything else in TaskStream? If you're not getting notifications, if you see stuff, let me know. Seth we went through that again last week. But every time they take Banner down and do a tech update or something like that, it seems that we have problems with TaskStream. And the default setting, unfortunately, on TaskStream is to take the email notifications off. See, TaskStream is linked to our email system. And so every time our email goes down or they reset it, the tech services takes DTech down like they did again today or yesterday. Every time that happens, if they go all the way back into TaskStream, it knocks everybody's email notifications off. And we got to figure out a way to get that stopped. But that's not in our shop. For those of you, I don't know if any of you knew it, they had a really sharp young man over in tech services named Troy, but he took the buyout last spring, and we've not replaced Troy. So every time we update something in our technology, we're having problems. They finally figured out what was causing your pay not to be picked up on load reports. They had updated Banner and the parameters had changed, and so again, Troy was in charge of all that kind of stuff, and so we don't really have anybody watching that stuff. So you just have to tell me if something's not right. You just have to don't hesitate. Pick up the phone, send me an email, and I'll pursue it, because I never know from one time to the next when something's not going to work like it did yesterday. And I'm not trying to be. And I'm not trying to do your job for you, but when stuff doesn't get done, I always assume that it's our technology on our end that caused it not to be done. Because all of you are keeping up and doing the things you need to do, but I just never know if you get notified or not. All right, so that's TaskStream for the evening. I'm going to look quickly at Blackboard. Let me close that. On Blackboard, everybody knows you have your internship shell. Please remember, and I'm going to do mine right quick. Please remember, you have two places to look in here. You have to look under needs grading, under Grade Center, if there's anything there. And this is where you would find the Turnitin assignments. You know that I've asked that they put their final evidence narrative when they're through with the OMA or the APTEL, that they put it in the Turnitin. Now, remind your students, please, not to be doing it on their own. If they want to do some kind of a check for that, don't use Turnitin. Some of them are creating their own accounts and paying for them and running it through them. We get them, it's 100%. So don't tell them don't be using Turnitin. But for you to check that what needs grading, what they put in, go to needs grading. For comments that they're asking you for, go to discussions. I just clicked on discussions and look at your bubbles over here. Mine should be empty. And you can give feedback. Now, to remind students, when they get their final evidence narrative for whichever one they're doing, APSEL and OMA right now, have them go to OMA evaluation Dropbox, and then put it under the last one, which is the OMA final evidence narrative. Please remind them, they don't get the report. That's not the point. They don't get the feedback. And some of them don't like that, so they're going to turn it in and doing it themselves and paying the fee or whatever. But then when we get it, it's 100%. They just put it in. You go into needs grading, and it will be there. And when it pops up, you click on the originality report, and if it's less than 50, you just write them a note that it's good, submit it for evaluation in TaskStream, and then when they go in to their Blackboard shell under My Grades, it will have your grade 100, and it will have that message for them to go ahead and submit. But I'm having too many lately that are circumventing us and trying to use Turnitin on their own. That makes me suspicious. But number one, but number two, then it delimits our ability to look and see what they're doing, because they're all 100% if they've been run one time by them. So remind them, if they want some kind of originality check, use a different piece of software other than Turnitin. So that's what we use. And I'm going to get a little bit tougher on them on that as we go. I think that's the refuge of scoundrels. I'm catching some work. I read one a few minutes ago. In the first paragraph on page 2, he referenced one school, and then he started on page 3 with a different school. I have a sneaking suspicion that he's working off somebody else's work. But we'll know when it gets to Turnitin. And so I sent him an email that, I'm concerned that you've referenced 2 different schools here. They're not in the same district. They're not the same grade levels. How's that working? I haven't heard back. But this is our, without us being on the ground and seeing these people all the time, this is our way to address plagiarism. I'm going to be a little bit tougher on it next semester. Speaking of next semester and Blackboard shells, that segues right into my next thing. I will be in touch with you before long as soon as the summer schedule comes out. I've been asked to create summer master schedules for 602, 3, 4, and 5. Obviously, we don't offer 601. And they will all have the same format. Dr. Birch, our associate provost that's in charge of graduate and professional schools, is very interested that all of our shells be consistent and be the same. Now, they don't have to have the same materials in the week-to-week classes that you do. They need to be kind of the same topics. But she wants the shells designed on a 10-week basis, not just take some of the stuff out of the 16-week shell. And so I already have the basic format here. And those of you who teach, I will work with you before the summer session. I have these, as you can see, I already have the basic format. And once I know who's going to be teaching what classes, I'll work with you to get your materials in here, or let you get your materials in here in terms of what you're going to do weekly. I have, you'll notice, this is a 602 shell, and you say, but Dale, you've got tasks for peer review for the app cell, the app tail. They won't need, you just simply hide those. They want them all to be the same, where we just turn them on and turn them off.
Right.
I'm going to make one shortly here, a new shell, a new type of shell. We're looking at doing something that's self-paced, competency-based for students to be competitive with Western governors. And so more about that later. But right now, there will be things in your shell that you don't need, that your students won't do that in the summer. They've already done it, or they won't get to it yet. You can simply hide those. It'll give you the option, as you see, you can just hide them. But they want them all to be the same format. And then you turn on and off what they'll need that semester. This is the bottom line. And I'll tell you where that came from. I'm not being ugly, or I'm not being derogatory, or I'm not complaining. You know that Gardner Webb went to Liberty University, one of the biggest online providers. And this is how they do theirs. They have a common shell, and they put all the information in it for the program, and they just turn it on and off according to what the student needs, according to what semester they're in, so that it's consistent throughout. And so when they came back from Liberty, they asked, are we doing that? And I said, pretty much, but it's not been formalized. And so they asked that we formalize that, like Liberty does it, which is not a bad thing. You still have some independent action in terms of what you put in your weekly materials. and what you put in discussion board, you know that you can modify that somewhat. But that's what we're going to be doing. So I have it ready. As you can see, it's ready to roll. As soon as if we know who, we can go in and start modifying these and put our individual content in. As soon as we know what we're going to do, I'm going to probably go ahead and put my content in a 60. I don't know. I won't put my content in the 603 shell. I'll put it in my own shell. But once I figure out who's going to be teaching 603 this summer, if it's me or whoever, we'll get together. I'll email you. We'll get together in Zoom, and we'll do these right quick. We'll have them ready long before summer, so we'll be ready to roll. Summer is going to be a bear this time. We're starting a week earlier and finishing a week earlier this year, and then we've moved CILD late back in July. And I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to meet on CILD. Let's see when we meet in that meeting. On the 9th, we're going to talk about what we're going to do, but we're not going to have CILD until the middle of July. And if we require our students to come, that'll knock a class session out, which I am not happy about. So I'm going to vote for the MELS students not to be required to come if we're going to have to give them credit for coming that week and take one of their class sessions out. We're already down to 10. We're already finishing before July's even over. It's compacted down to, we used to be 11 weeks and we could take a week off, but now it's just 10 weeks straight. I just, at some point we have to have a little integrity so that they can get their work done in the summertime. So more to come on the 9th on that one. All right, licensure, last thing that I've got on my list before I go to questions. I'm going to go to each of I'm going to do it for the 605 people in your shells. I'm going to go to, say, for example, let me go to Phyllis's shell here. Where is it? Mark, 603, 604, 605. There it is. Hers is face-to-face. But I'm going to go to her shell, and I'm going to go to Barbara's and both of Rebecca's. And when it pops up on the course overview page, the first thing I'm going to put right here is the information on licensure from Seth. It comes out later this week or beginning of next week. When it's okayed, we have to go through a little process on that. If you have students who have questions about licensure, please direct them to me or to Seth. And we're going to put a blanket statement on all the ones graduating this semester, and I may put it on the ones graduating next semester as well, and save us a lot of heartache. So I'll probably put it on the 603s and 604s and the 605s. But I had a question yesterday. Since I'm pretty much already through, can I go ahead and get my licensure? No, you can't go ahead and get your licensure. It will be issued in November, retroactive back to the date of your graduation in May or August. But they won't those won't physically come out till then. But Seth can write them a letter that says that, and I do one as well, that says that that they've already completed their program and their licensure has been recommended, and it'll be retroactive back to a date. So the folks who are looking to get employed in August are already wanting to know, can they go ahead and apply for their license? And the answer is no. They have to wait 2 weeks after their graduation date until transcripts are available to apply as well. But all of that information will be under course interview, and I'm going to put it in the 603s, 4s, and 5s. And just go ahead and get it there for summer. Because that batch all goes in at the same time for whatever reason. They won't even process them until later this fall, and they'll come out last week of October, first week of November. But they'll be retroactive back to May 12th or August. I think it's August 6th, something like that. It'll be retroactive back to then. August 4th. So please make sure that if you have questions about licensure, that I or Seth will handle that. Seth handles just the app, the thing about filling out the paperwork. I handle the things about out of state testing, that kind of stuff. I'll do that, handle that for him. But we're going to put information right here in Blackboard for him on licensure, and hopefully that will calm down the myriad of questions that you get about licensure this time of year. If we give them some information up front, and then whatever, and I'll tell them in that blog if they have questions. If you have these kind of questions, get in touch with Seth. If you have these kind, get in touch with me, and that'll keep them from beating you down. All right, my time is up. What's on anybody's mind about what we're doing here today? Anything? What do we need to be working on? Anything else that I've missed? Well, as I said, I'll check TaskStream when I get in the morning. I'm caught up on TaskStream and Blackboard, so I won't probably be back in them. I've got some other work to do tonight on some shells, and so I will be back in there in the morning. But if you know work's being put in, you're not getting notified, let me know. If your students are telling you that they're requesting comments on their competency folio, and you're not getting those comments requests through email, I can have Seth check that and make sure that those email notifications are turned back on. We're having more problems with that this semester than we've had. But again, we lost the young man that took care of all that stuff. His name was Troy. He was really good. I think Time Warner hired him in Charlotte. And I hate that. He was really good. And he kept all of our cell phones working and all our laptops. He did all that, you see all those certificates and licenses and all that stuff where you can't get anything signed on. He took care of all that stuff for us. And we really miss him. And it has really shown up this semester. We've had a devil of a time keeping everything running this semester on technology. All right, it's good to see you both. I'll send out the video on this. For those who aren't listening, we'll meet again, and I'll put it on the email. We'll get together again in 2 weeks. That'll get us through the Easter break, and so we'll come together again. 26th, on the 9th. We'll come together again on the 9th of April. So, as always, call or email if you need me. We'll Zoom. Thank you. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you, Dale. You too.
Hope you feel better.
Thank you.